pay for the services that you do because we value you and we want to see you in our community.
All right, thank you. Thank you. You should applaud that, and I want to speak to that because I want your voices to be heard. If that's the collective will of the people, I need your help. Let me just be straightforward. I need your help. And I propose, for example, in last year's budget that we have an incentive program really for all of our employees. We used to, in the county government, give everybody, in addition to cost of living adjustments, which we haven't been able to do because of the recession. I mean, so these are true public servants. They're making true sacrifice each and every day. And sometimes they get demonized for the work they do, but these are professionals. I watch them and I work firsthand with them. So when you see not only the men and women in uniform, but other men and women here who are giving each and every day their very best. I mean, I can tell you, I know the quality of people that we have working right here in the county, okay? And so we propose an incentive-based program for the highest performing employees in the county. It was taken out of the budget by the Board of Commissioners. Okay, I don't she said it doesn't need to be the clerks, it needs to be the police officers. And I'm all in support of our public safety officials. I'm behind them 100%. But sometimes it does need to be some of these other folks as well. That's my opinion. We can disagree, but that's my opinion.
Your funds are limited, though. I can see that if you had the money to give it.
I will start with a bite. I understand a bite out of the apple. I will start with the police, just like we're doing the housing for police officers and firefighters and teachers. I will start, you know, because I have our county employees. I was at the hospital with my wife on Sunday, and I had somebody pull me aside and said, my husband works for DeKalb County, but he's not a police officer or a firefighter or a teacher. Can he qualify for that program? Of course, we're using federal funding, so I couldn't say yes to her. But I will start with the bite out of the apple. But again, the appropriators are the Board of Commissioners, and so you got to make sure that they understand. If you tell me to put it in my budget, I'll put it in my budget. But if every year I put it in my budget and they take it out so that there can be a budget fight, you know, I proposed a budget, you see, but the final decision is on the Congress of the United States if you're talking about the president, and is on the Board of Commissioners of DeKalb County if you're talking about your local government. So understand, I'm not the king or the emperor, but I do listen, okay? And you wanted a question answered about, if you can answer quickly.
Yeah, I'll get your contact info and get you the list you're looking for in terms of projects that are coming up in this area this year or next year. The biggest deficit we have is street resurfacing, and I think that's one thing you're seeing, is we got over 2,000 miles of county roads. Over 400 miles of those 2,000 warrant resurfacing now because of the cracks and potholes and other things that built up. We get funding each year between the state and the county funds enough to do about 40 miles a year. So that backlog keeps building. So you're seeing the visible evidence of what we know is happening, that it's deteriorating faster than the funding can keep up with it. At some point, if something like TIA passes, then we have a new source of revenue, the transportation referendum, that can help make a dent in that. But I will get for you a list of the other park or street work that's planned. Even though there's a 400-mile backlog, we are at least doing 40 miles a year, and if your streets are among the worst of the worst, they should be on that list.
And you're next, sir, but there's a theme, Mr. Latimer, right?
Yes.
It's good to see you. Thank you for being here. I told you I was coming to your neighborhood.
Yeah, and I want to appreciate you coming out tonight.
Okay, well, thank you. Real quick, let me just say this. There's a theme I'm hearing, and the theme is all about, and I hear it everywhere I go in the county, we want more in our neighborhood because somehow people think that if we're not getting everything we used to get, because I think it started out, you started us out with the idea of what we used to have compared to what we have now. Well, the world has changed, and let me tell you how the world has changed. It used to be that we could be eligible for more federal funding, but the federal government has cut its funding. So the only people, so there's less federal funding than it used to be, and the only people that are getting federal funding are people who put in an investment, a down payment. So you've got to raise money. This is how the competitive thing is going on. You got to do two things to get the federal funding to do the kind of improvement projects that every community wants, because nobody's getting as much as they used to. You got to, first of all, say, I've got a down payment, and second of all, you got to show some form of a partnership, either with the private sector or with a neighboring community. So we've got to be able to show that we're making the investment. That's why raising the water and sewer rates to improve the capital improvement, the water and sewer system, was so important. But what we're doing with that, the way we're turning lemons into lemonade, is we're saying that, yeah, we raise the rates, but we're going to keep the money right here in DeKalb County. We're going to keep it right here in DeKalb County by hiring people in DeKalb County to do the work. That's why the Transportation Investment Act is so important too. Because yes, we're going to put out an extra penny in sales tax, but we're going to get more in return here in DeKalb County. And if this fails, I'm going to tell you what the people in the other counties are saying. Anybody here from Henry, Rockdale County? Is this just DeKalb County folks? So let's talk for a minute. They're saying DeKalb County got too much. DeKalb County's getting too much of return on its investment. So, and if we do it again, today, I understand one of the chairs from another major county in the area, you'll read about it in the paper, has proposed that we redo the project list. Now, what a mess that's going to be. Because if this fails, first of all, we're going to be set back another 2 or 3 years. And then when we come back to the table, I can guarantee you DeKalb County's not going to get as much as we're getting on this round. So this is a defining moment for DeKalb County, and it is a rightful moment because we've been investing with a penny in MARTA for 40 years anyway. So if anybody says, why should I pay the extra penny? Because I know some of y'all are thinking that, right? You pay the extra penny because of the return on investment. People down in Rockdale County are getting only 70% of their penny back, and we're getting 146% of our penny back. That's why you invest now. Yes, Mr. Latimer.
I'd just like to piggyback on something that you talked about as far as the county spending money. I know I've been harping on this issue. Thanks for coming out, first of all. I've been harping on this issue for the last couple of years in reference to the tractor trailers traveling on our streets in non-commercial zones. They tear up signs, then the county has to come back out, put the signs up. The gravel is deteriorating because of the way that they stop. And I have asked, I've gone to a lot of different people. Even, I got a couple of emails that I wrote to Major Jones about policemen that I have questioned when they were in an area and they saw a tractor trailer come, and then it came back down the street, and he told me he didn't see it. You know, I'll share it with you, but this is the kind of response when you say you go and you try to get things done in our community. And I'm with Ms. Kirkland. We have a lot of problems out here that needs to be addressed, and I try to get them done. I don't work for the county to do all these things, to go to these different people, but it's to no avail sometimes. And that's where my frustration comes in, and I think I shared that with you before. And the next question is, with the recent proposed overlay district in this particular area, it behooves me to see why are they, with our commissioners, Kathy Gannon and Lee May, which we don't really get good participation out of anyway, and they are trying to almost bring a recycling plant in this area, which we have a lot of problems with air pollution, tractor trailers, you got these landfills and everything. But my point is, these are the kind of things that should be brought to the community first, and they haven't been done.
I don't remember how, you're talking about that wood chip?
No, this is the newer recycle plant. It's called Plasmet, that's being proposed to be put on Constitution Road, Constitution Avenue in the old Durham plant in this area.
I gotta let our director of planning do that one. I don't know about it. Apparently, it's on the planning and zoning agenda. And
but the point is, we're working on an overlay district to improve this community, and it seems like, just like Ms. Kirkland said, we're being dumped upon again, just like something being forced upon us in reference to environmental hazards. We don't know. A study hadn't been done. They can say, well, you got plastic, but plastic does not disintegrate. You're going to smell it anyway or breathe it. Yeah. And
I don't know where that is in the process, so I've got to let Mr. Cornell answer that. Okay.
Actually, as a matter of fact, the Board of Commissioners is hearing that case tonight, right now. And unfortunately, I have to be here because I need to be with the CEO, but we have other people running a zoning hearing tonight. Now, I'm trying to be a little bit clear, though, about what this plant is. It is not a recycling solid waste type of facility. It's reusing a building. What they're doing is actually taking already processed material. They're not grinding it up. They're taking already processed material and sifting it out so that they can find materials that can be reused, and some materials will be discarded in the landfill. It's going to happen indoors within a building. So you'll drive by and you won't see a big landfill. You won't see that kind of activity outside. It'll be inside the building.
But that's more tractor trailers going to come in this area to create pollution, and then they might open up something else because of, they're saying it's green space and they want to create something different. We don't know, because everything sounds good in the beginning. You know, everybody come in the cab, they're going to create jobs. How many people really working in our neighborhoods that jobs are created that's in our neighborhood? And then it's just a lot of rhetoric, like you're saying that you're here and they're voting, but what is the outcome? See, that's what we get from Lee May and Kathy Gannon. They're proposed to do this, proposed to do that. It's a little bit of trickery with the rhetoric that they speak. And then it's like, oh, it's nothing we can do. And I will say, Commissioner Gannon, she will politely smile, get up and leave, and not answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, well, let me say this, that apparently that's on the zoning agenda. And it sounds like Gary is saying that's being taken up tonight. And I want to make sure that you know, we'll get you the status of what happens tonight. I mean, and Betty is telling me their community lead is there. The zoning administrator is there. I don't want you to think it's not being handled by the county, by him being here. The other thing is, you know, about other elected officials, they have a responsibility to listen to you. And if they don't listen to you, you have a responsibility then to vote. We have here tonight a table with members from our voters registration department, along with the League of Women Voters. Wave, so we see you, Delta Sigma Theta, Alpha Kappa Alpha, and 100 black women at DeKalb. I see some pink and green over there, so yeah. I don't see, where's the red? I don't see it right here. All right, she said right here. It said she bleeds red. Okay, so what I'm saying is we all have a responsibility, in addition to the presidential election, the local votes, the transportation referendum, and they're going to be going to these meetings because we want to emphasize the importance of registering to vote and then getting out to vote in both July, and I believe it's the last Tuesday in July, and then the first Tuesday in November, okay? It's important in the middle of the summer. Anybody new to Georgia, let me let you know, in the middle of your vacation, that's when voting is going to take place. And early voting, we're going to emphasize early voting, particularly to our seniors and those with disabilities. There's going to be a major push to get out early and vote this year on these important things. And for those, you know, half of the board, Mr. Latimer, is up for re-election. You know, the CEO is up for re-election. So now's the time to hold all of us accountable, okay? Understand that understand that zoning decisions are made by the Board of Commissioners, though, okay? All right. Yes, ma'am.
First of all, welcome, Mr. Ellis.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to see the turnout that we did have. And that's something I want to say. I have a lot of things I would love to say, but I'm going to have to just speak on a few things I know.
Okay.
First of all, that's one of the things we talk about is participation, and it's one of the things I speak to my good friend Sandra about. We can't force people to come out, but those of us that will come out, we do have a voice, and it does make a difference, so I'm happy we're here. Also, I heard someone stereotype talking about people in projects. Everybody that comes out of a project is not tearing up your neighborhood. First of all, there are some people who own their own home. I'm a real estate agent. And I have seen not only people who own their own home tear them down, more so than I have seen people who may have come out of the project. Most of them actually walk a very, very tight wire trying to make sure they don't disturb your community, as you call it, your community, and not bringing them into the community. The other thing is, we're talking about, pulling out. We can't afford to pull out. And this situation with the richer neighborhoods pulling out, what are we going to pull out? We don't have any commercial, anything that's going to bring us any money. We couldn't afford to actually sustain ourselves based on our median incomes in this area. I am against anyone raising taxes at this time, and I'm all for more volunteerism, because you can't take, as my grandmama used to say, you can't get blood out of a turnip, or a rock either. Now, God got water out of a rock, but I don't think we can do it. But at the same time, we have to be realistic and run our government the same way we run our homes, and that's we've got to tighten the belt. So we can't continue to want everything and say we want this and we want that and the other. I have a problem with the Candler Road, the fact that we put in all of these little mini lights all up and down Candler Road, and yet we did not do anything to, and we were promised that things were going to be done to the storefronts and the stores and the community up and down Candler Road to make it look as good as anywhere else. My last thing to say is about our police department. I love, love, love our fire department. Until 2010, I love, love, love our police department. I was arrested for the first time in my life by DeKalb County police officers, whereby my son and I had not done a thing, and they still, when they took us to court, did not have a reason for arresting us. I went out to ask why they were actually going after our children, and our children are targeted more often than any other community. I've been here since I was a child. I moved into DeKalb County in 1971, and at that time it was lily white, as they would say. And I know what it looked like back here. It was beautiful. We do not get the services. I know I'm familiar with Emory. I grew up here. So I'm familiar with the Clifton area and the Clifton over here. And we're not getting the same services. I understand Band-Aids right now, and that's another, I'm realist. We do have to have Band-Aids on certain things at this time. But you can't keep justifying giving one group of people more. We're standing in a building right now whereby our children have to go to a school whereby rats are still in here. They don't have air conditioning half the time during the summer. When I left here, of course, it was, and Eugene Walker is one of those people who sits around on the board and tell us, talk to us as though we're idiots or something when we come to the board meetings. I don't think any of our legislators, and I know I'm just venting mostly, our legislators are not doing the things that we don't even know who they are in this area. They don't send out information about what they're doing, who they are. You can't contact them, and you cannot get them. Lee Mays and Larry Johnson and Kathy Gannon, I literally can contact them when I need them, and they have been helpful. But I am not happy at all with our DeKalb County police officers. 99% are good. That's true. But it only takes that 1% to really make it look bad in our community. And I think that's
I want to hear
all.
you, but we're about 5 minutes, and I may be able to get 2 or 3 questions in before we end.
I hear them talking about spending $22 million to actually fix a park in Sandy Springs when we need a school here, and we need so many things up and down these streets in our communities, and we pay taxes the same way. No, we cannot afford to have a tax hike, and I know the value of property gone down to $35,000 that used to be $200,000 or $300,000. But we can't afford to pay. We can afford to work to watch things grow bit by bit, but I am all for the model referendum. We've got to pay that money like we've always paid it. Because transportation, my son can't find a job because he can't get to where he needs to go to get a job because of transportation at this time. We're being burglarized because folks can't drive a car anywhere outside the neighborhood.
Well, let me say, first of all, thank you for your comments. Second of all, I want to say I'm very sorry to hear about your bad experience with the police department, but I do want to appreciate that you acknowledge that 99%, because that 99%, sometimes it takes that 1%. It's not just the police. It can take 1% of in any fine institution. You know, in this life, we never quite reach perfection, but we strive towards excellence. And there's always that 1% in any institution. And so, but what we do, let me give you an example of the kind of men and women we have. And I'm not negating your experience, but we had an incident down at the South Precinct, Chief alerted me to one morning, and we had a guy who was arrested. I don't remember what he did. He was in handcuffs, and he spit on a police officer. Now that's pretty bad. But let me tell you what the police officer did. He did what a lot of us might do if somebody spit in our face, in his face. He hit the guy. But a police officer is held to a higher standard, okay? He took the guy, these two officers took the guy back behind the precinct, and they started beating on him, and he was handcuffed. And I want you to know, though, the guy did spit in their face first, and then it escalated from there. And they, yes, perhaps should have turned the other cheek. But they were seen by another police officer who reported it, and the men and women in the DeKalb County Police Department took action against two of their own who reacted to a situation that should have never happened. But because they're held to a higher standard, they reacted inappropriately. But the officers who caught them acted very appropriately. So I want to say that, you know, there's always that 1% in any institution, any organization. Actually, in most organizations, it's more than 1%. But I am proud of the 99 and what they do. And you've said a lot, and so let us work with you.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Because I've heard you say that in some instances you're willing to pay more for services, but in other instances you don't want to raise taxes.
Right.
But I got to be fair, okay?
I want to just add something.
Can I have someone take down your question?
I do.
Because I know you're venting, and I want to give you an opportunity to vent, but I got some people got some questions.
It won't take 3 seconds probably.
All right.
Not only was I arrested, but I was attacked.
All right, I'm sorry to hear that, but we'll get some information from you. Yes, sir. We got about 5 minutes, everybody.
Hello, my name is Lindsey Cottingham. I live in the Cedar Trade subdivision, and I think we kind of glossed over crime out here. It's really bad, and if you came in, I don't know which way you came in, but the formerly Citgo gas station, we've called and complained, and we have talked to Ms. O'Rear, but Ms. O'Rear is not the chief of police. Only thing she can do is give that information to the chief of police, and we've called, we've written letters, and nothing is happening. It seems to be getting worse. It's kind of calmed down because the weather is cold and the drug dealers don't want to stand on the street.
It's not that cold out here. I mean, if they were out, but I've got the chief here tonight, and I want him to begin to work to make sure that we're addressing the needs of the community. Is that fair, Chief? Okay.
But you call and they say, okay, we're going to do something. Nothing is done. And another example, the lady that talked about the areas where the kids have basically taken over, and it's a subdivision behind ours. They have literally kicked our fences down to make shortcuts. We call the police. They don't show up. I understand you guys are taxed. Everybody's taxed now. But we don't want to invest in anything that we're not getting a return on. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you. And what we'll do is, Chief, we want to make sure that we've got representatives for the community working with Major Jones and the other appropriate folks, okay? Yes, sir.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. CEO.
Good evening.
I would like to, I have one question and one comment I would like to make. First of all, the first question I have is, do we have a pothole crew?
Do we have a pothole group?
Pothole crew to fill the holes in the streets?
And the answer is yes. I got to cut off the line, so I'm going to cut them off with the people who are in lines right here.
Okay.
And Ted, do you want to address that? The short answer is yes.
Now,
Yeah, I mean, As I said a minute ago, we've got over 2,000 miles of roads. We know more than 400 miles of them need immediate resurfacing. Like every other department, roads and drainage had to take some cutbacks too. They're down 100 people from what they were 3 years ago. Used to have 350 people, now they're 250. They're still working as hard as they can to get to stuff when they know about it, but the time now takes longer. So 3 or 4 years ago, you call in a pothole, they could probably get in there in 24 hours. Now, it's going to be a longer period of time, and their goal every day is to do the worst first. But I'll get your information, and we'll make sure that you know when they're going to get to it. But it is taking them longer to get stuff. That's just the reality for a lot of
Yeah, one more question, and
No, it's not a question. This is a comment I'd like to make.
Okay.
I want everyone here to understand one thing. You need to be more proactive in your community. You need to go to the Board of Commissioners meeting and explain to them that if they're not representing you, we the people, your weapon is your vote.
Okay.
You need to vote them out of office.
Thank you.
Point blank. Now, the thing is that DeKalb County has been in a fight. The Board of Commissioners and the CEO has been in a fight for a long time. We all know this. They're treating Mr. Ellis like the Congress is treating President Obama. They're not working together. Now, anytime your commissioner go against the will of the people, you need to vote them out of office, point blank. You don't need to be friends with them. The commissioners are not your friend. You're a taxpayer. They're supposed to do the wishes of the taxpayers in your prospective district. Thank you.
Let me say this, because I just got a note. I'm going to try to get these people, and I just got a note that we have to be out of here by 9, and of course I mentioned the State of the Union. And I think this is the point that he's really trying to make, and I'm going to try not to personalize it. We have a situation in Washington, and we see it play out every day, where people are being less than civil. President goes before the Congress to deliver the State of the Union, and he's called a liar. I was accused of illegality by a commissioner on the news tonight. I mean, what I'm saying to you is that people can disagree. That's what humans do, okay? But you don't have to disagree and call somebody a name when you disagree, okay? All right? You don't have to impugn somebody's motives or who they are or go on the attack. And usually when somebody's going on an attack, attacking somebody personally in order to make a point, there's an agenda behind that. And I think that's the point he's making. So we have to be very discerning as we watch these processes play out, because everybody's motives are not pure. People are playing politics when lives are at stake, okay? I mean, we have facilities. I've heard people say we want improvements. And I can't say all the improvements are here in this area, but all over the county we're doing improvements. I've got commissioners who will hold up improvements because the CEO proposed it. And it's true. Anybody who's watching knows it's true. So I'm just telling you the truth. So they're not punishing me. They're punishing the community. They're holding up progress for the community. So I think that's the point. So we need to just be vigilant and watch. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. CEO, for your comments, especially the ones you just have, because I have been watching the same thing play forward. My question did concern the TIA. Have you heard any, I guess, changes that the legislature is going to make to assist those of us that live in DeKalb, Atlanta, and Fulton as we pay them 1 cent for MARTA to try to figure out how to do a regional governance to try to make this thing a little more palatable to all of us?
Yeah, yes and no. Okay. They are taking up a regional governance bill. In other words, they're putting in a new structure to oversee transit governance for the region. I don't know what that's going to look like. I met with the governor yesterday morning and talked, and he didn't really tell me that he knew what it was going to look like. He did tell me that it may not address all of the equity issues, but there would be a transit governance bill. Well, I know that there's going to be a transit governance bill. So I told him it would help me make the case for passage of the transportation referendum if there was a fair structure for supporting transit throughout the entire region. Exactly. And that's the equity issue. Yes. Okay. Now, I told the governor that face to face. But let me say this, the return on investment, I don't know what's going to happen with governance this year. I'm not totally optimistic that we're going to fix it the way I like to see it fixed. But the return on investment, because this is all about investment. If DeKalb County, we may not have everything we want, but we have laid a strong foundation for a recovery. This is what I want y'all to hear. Look at the investments that we're making. They may not be all we've made, but we've been able to make investments when other communities haven't been able to do anything. Okay? It's just real. And so that's the foundation for us to get through this recession and into a recovery as quick as we can. And that's why I support the transportation referendum. Without that $225 million coming in South DeKalb, some people would say, I don't want the $225 million. I want $500 million.
Yes.
Now, how silly is that? I want to make twice what I make now, but I'm not going to turn down my salary because I want to make more.
Exactly.
I want to live in a $500,000 house, but maybe I can only afford a $150,000 house. Am I going to be homeless? No. I'm going to take what I can afford now, and I'm going to build on it. So 5, 10, 15 years down the road, I can improve my means, you see.
Yes.
So sometimes we get caught into discussions that really, if you think about it, aren't in our best interest. I'm not getting everything I want. You owe me X amount of dollars, but you're only paying me half of it. I'm not going to take it. No, I'm going to take the half you can pay me today, and then we'll work out the other half. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, like a lot of things in politics and life, people are looking at it from a mature perspective, understand it's about compromise.
Yes.
Okay, and we've got to advance the ball. Okay, I'm moving fast.
Indeed. Thank you, Mr. CEO. Corey Wilson, glad to see you again, sir.
It's good to be here, thank you.
This is probably more of a better question for Chief O'Brien, and that is, we are getting ready to come upon, in a couple of months, the most dangerous season in South DeKalb with home break-ins. And with that happening, what are, because I didn't hear the plan to increase patrol, because you're talking about the crime tracks and things of that nature. Well, the crime tracks that I've seen show that my area gets infiltrated by criminals. So what are your plans to bring police officers into our areas compared to the areas that don't have high crime track statistics? What is your plan?
Here's what I've asked the chief to do, because there's a number of questions, and again, we're running out of time now. I'm asking him to pull together his team and to sit down and meet with neighborhood leaders, and I'm going to ask that you all tell us, you know, it's going to have to be a manageable group. It can't be a group this size, but a manageable group, and we'll come up with a plan that is actually workable. In other words, it takes into consideration the resources that we have available. I think what you're proposing is that you've got an area that may need more attention and maybe some other areas that need less attention. Let's actually put that down on paper and look at it and map out a plan. Is that reasonable, Chief? Okay, and so I'm gonna ask you if you could just gather up the right people. Betty, can you help with that? Okay, so we can get the neighborhood leaders. And you all tell us who your neighborhood leaders will be. Okay, last two questions over here.
Okay, my name is Betty Prather, and I'm going to quote you. You said money does matter, and it does matter.
Sometimes I said it matters, yeah.
And it does matter to me about the transportation referendum, and it matters because I'm having difficulty saying that I will vote for the 1 cent. And I know it's only 1 cent per person,
No, it's out.
but for over 30 years, DeKalb and Fulton County have funded MARTA. And in my mind, a regional transportation would encompass all of the counties and not just Fulton and DeKalb. So until I can see where the other counties are willing to come along and be a full part of a regional transportation, at this point, I just don't see myself voting for that referendum. I know some good will come out of it, and I understand return on money because I am in finances. But at this point, because of the disparity, DeKalb and Fulton County are asked to pay for a lot of things that the other counties do not support. So why should we continue to do that? You know, we will never get the money back that we have paid into the system as opposed to if the others just come in and pay it, which they don't want to pay now.
Yeah.
Before I came over here, I heard a representative from Cobb County. He was talking about changing the whole referendum because of something with the buses. They didn't want buses out there.
That's what I was referring to when I said.
Right, exactly. So with that kind of attitude, they've had over 30 years to get this regional transportation to come out there, MARTA in particular, to come out there, and that will relieve all the traffic, a lot of the traffic off 285, 75. I don't want another expressway built or anything else done that's going to extend an expressway going around the city or anything. I would like for us to have a true regional transportation system, and until we get that, then I cannot support it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for the question. Let me acknowledge that very quickly, I'm not defending the past disparities. I want to acknowledge that there have, in fact, been disparities in the past, that we built a transit system that is not a regional transit system. There's no question about that, that DeKalb, Fulton, and the city of Atlanta have been the ones who have funded that system, and the state legislature set it up in a way that other counties actually have seats at the table and a voice, though they don't fund it. However, the improvements from that system have come to DeKalb, Fulton, and the city of Atlanta. So I want to be clear that we have received a return on investment for that penny. In a perfect world, I would like to see us move to a truly regional transit system. I would prefer to see region-wide we invest more money. Ted and I and others from DeKalb County came up with a plan where we believe that more of the money, 60% or better, should have been invested in transit. This is a regional transportation plan because it includes roadways and transit improvements. It is not a regional transit plan. But what does it do for DeKalb County? It expands the existing transit system in which we have invested over the last 40 years. It gives us some additional money to continue to repair that system in which we have invested over the last 40 years. And so that's what's key. Does it do everything that I would like it to see? No, I'll be the first to tell you, it does not. One of the natures of politics, Senator knows this, is that very seldom, particularly in a body as large as the General Assembly, with the makeup of that body as it currently exists, it's very unlikely that we in DeKalb County or anybody is going to get everything we want and it's going to come out exactly the way we want it. But it does advance the ball. It gives us a funding source to ensure that our investment remains sound and gives us something to leverage off of as we go to the federal government to get even more funds. If it doesn't pass, then my concern is that we will be even further set back. One of the primary concerns I hear people talking about here is about maintenance. We have these things, we have this green space we purchased, we have this facility, it's not being maintained, grass is growing over it. And so it costs money to maintain it. So you're right, money matters. It's a lot of money, $6.1 billion in region-wide transportation projects, 21% of that money being spent in DeKalb County, mostly on transit. And that's why I would say yes to the referendum.
My other question is, some of the recreation centers, in particular Exchange Park and Redan Park, are talking about charging membership fees. And I'm wondering why will we be asked to pay membership fees for public parks and recreation?
Ted, do you know anything about that? Can you come up here and talk about that?
And while he's coming, I'd just like to add that every time DeKalb County is asked to pay a special tax, we agree to do it, and we do it. Whenever there's a bond referendum, we vote for that. And we also pay property taxes. So why are we constantly being asked to pay for public things such as a park and recreation? And I mentioned the MARTA thing.
Well, I'm gonna let him answer the Parks and Recreation because I don't know the answer to that, and so I want Ted to respond to that. But I do want to say that DeKalb County, I think, has a history of being the most progressive county in the metro region. And as a result, I think we preserved our quality of life in this county. And And so we've had to make investments in order to protect the investment that we care most about, and I think that's the quality of life. And that's what I hear people say over and over again, that they would rather pay for quality services than to not have quality services. I'm not saying everybody agrees with that. We live in a county of over 700,000 people, but that is a recurring theme. Ted, you want to speak to the fees?
Yes, at Redan and Exchange, which are brand new rec centers, there was some exercise equipment and other facilities put in, and they have a little more maybe than some of the other rec centers. Parks and Rec right now brings in, say, $13–14 million of tax dollars for mowing the grass or repairing buildings or things in the parks. They collect, say, a couple million a year from various fees, like people who use the tennis courts or put their kid in the summer camp or use the pools. So many of their programs, there are some fees to help with the cost of operation, most of which is still tax. But you're right, it has been discussed that they may charge a fee for use of those exercise facilities to help offset some of the budget.
Well, I was told that a membership fee. Now, I like the indoor track, and a lot of seniors and a lot of people like the indoor track. So why should we be charged a membership fee to get into the building? That's what I was told. I can understand maybe paying for different classes that are there, but why should we have to pay a membership fee when we're already paying property taxes? That's what they're telling me. That's why I'm bringing it to you tonight.
Yeah, I think it's been discussed, not yet in place, but for the reason I described, there was bond money to build those new buildings, but the operating budgets keep cutting back for maintenance. And so one of the things Parks has done, and the Board of Commissioners has asked us to really look for any opportunities along these lines, is fees that could help offset some of the operating cost, because the taxes keep going down, and there's less money to mow the grass or repair the plumbing or fix the roof leaks, et cetera. And so even if they adopt a fee like that, it should be something very reasonable, but it would be done to offset the cost of operations, since the bond money was just to build the building, and we can't use that money to do the janitorial or fix the plumbing or clean the restrooms or those other things.
And what I want you to know, the reason I called on Ted is because it hadn't been discussed with me. I agree with you on that one. I don't think there should be an entrance fee to use the Redan or Exchange Park rec centers. I think that I can understand better the argument to offset some of the costs to use some of the heightened level of services, but not to get into the building for taxpayer and citizens. So, you know, the final decisions on setting fees goes to the Board of Commissioners. I do get to weigh in, and I get to determine whether I make a recommendation to them or not. And am not likely to favor making that kind of a recommendation. I'm hearing that for the first time tonight, so I agree with you. I got to go to her for the final question. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you for taking my question, and I thank you for coming out, and hopefully I won't leave you on a bad note.
No.
And my question
We're going to leave
is,
on whatever note you send us off on.
Well, I want to first thank the police
gonna make it
officers
good.
and the firefighters and the teachers, because I'm one that's gotten furloughed, and so my income has decreased.
Sorry to hear that.
But I just want to say, I know I heard things about transportation improvement, new facility improvement, and correct me, I may have not heard about bringing new businesses into DeKalb County. And I don't know who is responsible for that, but that's something that may help the crime rate too. My concern is that even though I've been furloughed, I can save a little bit of money to go out to a nice place and eat or shop. But we do not have that in DeKalb County, and my concern is why I can go up off 78 to Gwinnett County, and I know we're comparing other counties, but I can go to a restaurant or a shop that I see in a Dunwoody mall on their strip malls. But our strip malls, and I'm no disrespect for anybody, have chicken and nail shops and the same thing. And I want to know why DeKalb County cannot bring the same kind of clientele or same kind of shops that I see in another county.
I'm getting a signal because we got,
Okay.
and I'm gonna ask
I know.
everybody to get out of here as quickly as we possible, or we won't be able to use this facility again. Let me just say quickly that we have a director of economic development. We hired him from the Atlanta Development Authority after an extensive search with a lot of outside involvement. He's a Yale grad. He's doing a wonderful job. The role of government is to incentivize that private sector growth, but we're not the ones who actually go out and improve the strip centers and the mall. I mean, government just in no place does that. But we are offering the kinds of incentives. That's how we got Stonecrest Mall. That's why Perimeter Mall is booming. So I want to assure you that we have reshaped economic development. It took a major hit in our budget cuts by our Board of Commissioners, and we have been criticized by one commissioner in particular for reshaping it, who represents this area. But we have reshaped it nonetheless, okay? And we are working towards improving it. I want to thank all y'all tonight for being here. Enjoy the State of the Union. We have 10 more. Please come back out and look forward to seeing you there. Thank you all.